17 years ago, I wrote a rabbinic thesis on gender roles in Judaism, particularly moving from one gender to another. And in that thesis, I tried to demonstrate, I believe I did demonstrate, that the rabbis, when they were talking about the tumtum, the androgynos, the ailonit, these categories of individual who were neither fully male nor fully female, I believe I demonstrated that they were talking about them on a theoretical level and not on a practical level. In other words, they created these categories, but hadn't actually met somebody from that community. They created the categories and then tried to explain them. And the reason they did that was to enforce a dual gender system. For these rabbis, you were either male or female, and you couldn't be anything else. And so if a person presented as male and female, the rabbis needed to understand which category you fell under. And so in Mishnah and in Talmud in particular, as well as in later codes, we find many discussions on individuals who are tumtum, androgynos, ailonit, who are left in a sort of limbo position. And they're left in that limbo position until the rabbis explain this counts as a male in these regards, this counts as a female in these regards. And they needed to do that because they needed to know they had a very strict gender separation, quite deliberately. And that strict gender separation led to the importance of determining who was male and who was female. That thesis, interestingly enough, when I presented it to Temple Beth Shalom here 8 years ago, I think it was, I remember one person, after having shared the findings of my thesis, said, okay, so now what? And I'm still trying to answer that question. So now what? I think one of the most important things for me right now is the profound awareness of the shifting models of gender roles in Judaism. Of course, there are Jews who still hold by a very strict social construct of there being only male and female, and they say that such a social construct is given by God and is the way of the world. We know that's not true, in fact. We know that all throughout the natural world there is not a simplistic gender divide between male and female, and that of course applies very much to human beings too. Early Judaism had a very specific perspective on gender, and it also had a very specific perspective on sexuality. And it did so in order to keep things simple, to put people into categories, halachic categories, so that everyone could be determined, are they liable for a certain mitzvah, are they not liable for a certain mitzvah. When it comes to sexuality, the Jewish tradition became extremely homophobic, although interestingly, it didn't even notice female homosexuality until much later. It didn't even conceive of such a thing. And even though some people read Torah, particularly Leviticus 18, as a ban on homosexuality, there are many others who read it very differently. We may turn around and reinterpret that. We may say that's not the original meaning of the text. We might even turn around and say, but that was then, and this is now. And maybe Torah does condemn homosexuality. But that's irrelevant because Judaism changes. In fact, there are Torah laws that were written out by rabbinic law, quite specifically determining this is no longer applicable. We can debate as much as we want about halakha. We can debate as much as we want about Torah and how we interpret it. But the reality of the Jewish community today is that, as there have always been, there are members of the LGBTQ community in our community, and we celebrate them. We celebrate them, we celebrate you, as much as we celebrate everyone else. Our tagline for our temple, come as you are. Doesn't mean fit into a specific norm, fit into any kind of model or any kind of expectation that we want of anyone. We don't put people into halachic categories in this community. We see people for who they are and we celebrate them. Tomorrow is Pride on the Plaza. And we are going to be showing how much we support members of the LGBTQ plus community who have been sidelined for so long by the Jewish community. We are going to show our support. We're going to show that we see you, that we celebrate you. We learn from you, in fact. We grow from talking with you and from your experiences of love. We learn also about love and connection. From your experience of identity, we learn about our own identity. We learn and grow together because we cherish people, because everyone is made in the image of God. So tomorrow there won't be a Shabbat Shacharit service. We will have our Torah study, but then our Shabbat Shacharit service is following the words of Abraham, Joshua, Heschel. We will be praying with our feet. We'll be praying with our presence, with our really open support of all Jews, all members of the LGBTQ plus community. We will be having a booth on the plaza, and we encourage you to join us for a Shabbat gathering in the plaza to celebrate LGBTQ plus Jews, to show our support, to demonstrate truly how welcoming and inclusive we are. Judaism has developed a long way since the Torah. Our community has developed a long way. We continue to grow, to develop, to understand what it means to be welcoming and inclusive, and we still have much to learn. So this Shabbat we celebrate our Jewish members of the LGBTQ plus community. We celebrate you, we cherish you, we invite you to come and to share of yourselves in our community so that we can truly learn together, grow together, be Jewish together, and experience the face of God in each other. I wish you Shabbat Shalom.